Hello, my name is Heidi Marja, and you are now listening to my podcast, Love, Joy, and Heartset. I'm so grateful that you are listening to my podcast. I'm grateful for all the wonderful people that I meet and that I get to know when I'm interviewing them. I have got the amazing experience to interview people from all over the world about spirituality, about love, and their mission in life. Today, I am so happy to have my guest of the day. So enjoy. I am so happy to have Amberlee all the way from Australia here today. Amberlee, I'm so happy that you was able to get to my podcast today, and I'm sure it will be an amazing time and hour with you. Can you please share a little bit about yourself and how did you start your spiritual journey and your life purpose?
Wow, what a great question. And first, I want to say I'm honored that I'm here. I remember that was almost a year ago that we tried to organize this, and I was traveling around in a caravan around Australia, thinking I was living my dream life. But the beautiful thing about a caravan is that what I realized is the cracks begin to show, and I I didn't mean to, and as you well know, I overlooked your message and never followed through. But there is what I want to come from is my spiritual journey is that there is no mistake that it's today rather than where it was, 9 to 12 months ago. And it's interesting you ask about where my spiritual journey began. Like my intuition's telling me right now, like when I was younger, I used to see things and it used to scare my mother.
Mm,
I used to see, and now I understand it's like entities that were there. And my mum lived in a very old house, but in comparison to your standards, it's not very old, but it was 120 years old. It was an old
yeah.
home for because Australia is such a young nation. And I would see things, and I remember it scared my mum, and so therefore it scared me. And so I sort of hid that part away for a very long time, thinking it was wrong because other people couldn't understand it for
Mm,
themselves. And so it wasn't until, and like it comes back to again that there's no mistakes.
mm,
Uh, my soul called me to become an actress. It called me to be an actress, and at the time, it was led by ego, and it was about if other people could see me as beautiful, and that I got these Oscars, and I got the acceptance of society that I would fall in love with myself. And what happened through that journey as an actress, I got introduced to self development and sort of spirituality through that. But then, interesting, I walked into a 12-step room and
mm,
it's OA, so it's for Overeaters Anonymous. And so for that, it's based on the 12 steps of AA. And the
mm.
reason I walked into that room because I was bulimic. And
Oh,
so I was my bulimia. Well, when I was younger, it was anorexia. Then it turned to bulimia, and I wasn't very good at the vomiting, to be honest. And so how I did it is that I would starve myself, and then I would binge. And the reason why women don't understand, we're meant to eat, and if we're starving ourselves, our body is hardwired to eat food. It's the seized
mm,
food it wants it because it doesn't understand that we're trying to lose weight. But I didn't understand that back then, so I fell into this thing, and I was in this crisis. And someone in New York told me about it when I was studying acting, and I remember I would go look on the website and see the
mm.
meeting, and that was after I ate so much food that I couldn't move and I'd never step into the room. And in New York, there's like 20 meetings a day. I never had the courage. And then what happened is I was living with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. We just brought her home,
Mm,
had an episode. Like when things went bad in the world, I would start eating the food. It was like my control mechanism. And
mm,
I was lying on the ground crying, and Frank turned around and said, I'm concerned. I don't get all of you.
mm,
The food eats you, but I don't. Because I put my heart on the table, giving you all of me. But that rules you.
mm.
The next day I went into a meeting, and the reason why I share about that is because that's what opened it up. It was one of the steps is that you're powerless over your own life. It's actually
Mm,
God. Like, and to me, I don't believe in a man standing in the sky, but I realized that my soul has been saying that there's something bigger than me. And
yes.
I thought which is interesting because my principles have changed, but back then I was like, I thought I was the center of the world and I was fighting the world. And that's the reason why things were going like that. But my soul was driving me into this meeting so that I could be open to see that there is a different way. And
Mm,
so when I was in that room, it opened me up to so much more. And I don't go to those rooms anymore. I think they're a wonderful art opportunity for you to open up, but I also feel like they're limited. And so
mm,
then what happened is I became curious about different things, and I started learning about like Dr. Joe Dispenza's work,
yes.
um, Dr. Dean Martini, Abraham Hicks, like Wayne Dwyer. There's going to all these beautiful things, and then each one of them like had and Eckhart Tolle and oh my god, the seed of the soul. Like there was so many, and so I just got engrossed in this, and I was like, oh, my soul was saying I found home, which is coincidentally is the more I've gone into the soul component, like I don't struggle with my food issues anymore because I have compassion. My food issues were there because I judged myself so hardly,
Mm,
and I had, how can I say it? The criticism that I had drove me to the food.
yeah.
And the criticism is like in that voice that I learned that actually that voice wasn't mine. It was the
Mm,
critical voice of my mother and my father because they were given the same critical voice. Most voices that we have inside our head, which I would give everybody that's listening to it right now, is like when a voice comes up and it's harsh and it's not actually you, and you ask yourself, is that my voice or someone else's? And there'll be a quiet, calm voice that'll say,
mm,
yours.
mm.
And sometimes it'll lead it to a memory. And so, a long story short, it was my struggle with my representation of my body and with food that brought me onto my spiritual journey.
Wow, what a journey you have had, and that, like you said, that nothing is a mistake. That you weren't ready for going to the meeting yet, and you see that when when we start the journey, then all the things that we need on this journey is appearing to us. We can think that, oh, what is happening now? I don't know what to do, but then it's right in front of us, but we can see it. But when we are ready to see it, then we see it, and then we are okay. I'm going to take that call, or I'm going to read that book, or I'm going to, and then it start to happen like a snowball that is running and getting bigger and bigger.
Right. It is a snowball and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And how I see it now because I've done neuro linguistic programming, and
Yeah,
in NLP, they teach about the greatest motivator for humans is pain. It's not pleasure.
yes,
95% of the population is driven by pain because most of us live in a 7 out of 10 life. And we're at 7 out of 10 life, we're comfortable. Our soul is whispering, come do this. You're meant to be a writer, you're an actor, you're a singer, you're
yeah,
meant to be on stage. Like it's whispering, you're a dancer, it's whispering something that's so
yes,
unique to you. And the only reason your soul is whispering that thing to you is because you have the chemistry and the soul chemistry in your body in there just needs to be lit up. But because we're living a 7 out of 10 life and it's comfortable, we don't give ourselves permission to go and follow our soul's calling. And it's not until we're in pain that we're willing to go through the discomfort. And unfortunately, there is discomfort, but comfort because we're forging a new identity. And to forge that new identity, it takes courage.
Yes, and that's so true. And when you say that, last month I got prolapse in my back, and I was like, wow, why is it happen now? And then I started to write my book. And when I started to write my book, it was the only time, and I got goosebumps now when I'm saying it, because it was the only time that I got like peace, because I was in the flow. When I was walking, when I was eating, when I was doing anything, and then pain came back. But when I'm writing, then it starts. And the book that I'm writing about is about being pleasure, because you can't, when you are in pain, you can't be in pleasure. And the opposite of pain is pleasure. And my purpose and my mission is to get women to learn about how to live in your female energy and be in the pleasure.
What a vision and mission to have. Because what I've seen in society, and it doesn't matter if you're in Europe, Australia, America, if you look at Asian nations, there has been a real disconnection for women from the feminine energy.
Yes.
It's been over to, and there was nothing wrong with the feminism age where they wanted, I can see why the women so badly wanted to be treated as equals as men, but now there's been this huge shift that we're too far in the masculine, and that's why so many women are exhausted, because they're not running to their natural energy type, and their natural energy type, as you know, is pleasure, it's joy, it's fun. How do I receive? And it's like, most people don't understand this. Like, we're all on a vibrational scale. The vibration is shame and guilt. This is one of the reasons I'm talking about your mission. My mission is about helping women and men own their story, rather than standing on the outside hustling to own their worth. They stand in the middle of it and say, this is who I am. It made me who I am. And I share that because shame and guilt, so many women and men have shame and guilt around their story, and it vibrates at 20 hertz. And where you're from is this feminine flow, this joy, this fun, this love is over 500 hertz. And when women are naturally back into that feminine flow, we become manifesting queens, and magic happens, because we as women are so here to just receive. We're not here to do the we can do inspired you when you have it, like your book, when you've got the flow, I'm going to do this, I have inspired you, but we're not constantly meant to be doing 24/7, because our menstrual cycle is a 28-day cycle. So even if we look at, like, I could talk about this all day, the clock set up for men are daily, because a man's hormones run on 24 hours. So a man goes through his entire hormone system in 24 hours, where a woman on average is 28 days. And so we're conforming ourselves to fit into this thing where we're, like I said, and I'm so grateful that your vision and your mission is to bring women back into joy, play, and fun, because then that's how you create the life that you'll create.
Yes, and also I take the women also in the menstrual circle, because that is so important. And what I understand when I got out of a marriage was that I hadn't listened to my hormone system. I hadn't listened to my hormones. And when I started to listen, then everything started to calm down. The nerve system, the pain in the body, I got more in touch with who I am. I started to do what I wanted to do in life. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't like, oh. and then it started, also the Kundalini started to arise in the body. So that's amazing when it's happened. But you said that you are helping men and women to find their voice, and also their message to the world. Can you explain a little bit more what you do and how you do that?
It's wonderful. I feel like my favorite thing about helping people know their story, it's really about like, what are they most ashamed about? What's the one thing that they're too scared to tell another? Because that's where their message is. And the reason
Yes.
why, because it's scary. How are other people going to perceive me? And it's groundbreaking. Like for me, uh, not that I share this story as much anymore, but one of the stories of my life is that I came out that I used to be a sex worker, and that I
Yeah.
met my husband through that line of work. And I didn't share that. I had a social media presence for about a year and I hadn't shared it. And I thought I hadn't shared it out of respect to my husband. I
Mm.
thought I shared that I'd met him through that. But the truth was, is I was scared about how others would perceive me. And my soul kept whispering, you have to share this story. And a part of me is like, well, how are other people going to judge me? Are they going to label me, I'm going to be blunt here, like a whore, that I prostitute myself?
Mm.
And what was interesting is that as soon as I made peace with my story, that I actually did prostitute myself. And in many ways, people could, you could say that I was a whore, because I did whore myself for money. It's truthful.
Yeah.
But the only time I ever felt like a prostitute in my job is when my soul told me that I'm not meant to do it anymore. And I turned up to work and I did something I said I would never, ever do. I had a rule that I said I would never break, and I
Mm.
broke that rule. And I needed to break that rule to get out of that job. And that was the
Mm.
only time, because I didn't love what I was doing. I was doing it for my money, for the
Yeah.
money that I exchanged for it. And then I had the aha moment is that, well, there are many times that I worked other jobs where I prostituted myself for the money there. Didn't love the job, but I was turning up day in and day out for the money,
Mm.
just for the money. And then as soon as I made like that aha moment in my story, I wasn't afraid to share it anymore. And it wasn't about Frank. It was about my fear of how other people would perceive me. And what I've learned, and this is why I love about helping people find what their story is that it's probably the thing that they're so scared about sharing, but it's the most liberating thing for them. Because once they own that component of their story, I wouldn't be the woman I am today. I wouldn't have my husband who is in that shout right now. And I wouldn't have those two beautiful children that absolutely adore me if I hadn't made that choice for that line of work. And
Mm.
that's where I working with people. Your choices made you who you are today. And when you stand in the middle of it saying, this is who I am, you actually become untouchable. Nobody comes into my inboxes
Yes.
with criticisms about it, because everything is a perception. If you judge yourself internally, the world is a mirror of it. So what our role is, it comes back to that spiritual, is how do we heal those things within us that it doesn't worry us anymore? And therefore you don't have the mirror of the outside world reflecting back. And that's why I love owning people, having their stories, because they understand this is who I am. They stand in front of people and they become untouchable, because they've tapped into the knowing of their soul, and they have this God essence, understanding that God, it could be God, source, the universe, whatever you choose to believe
Mm.
in, is that there was a reason why your soul chose this, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And on a side note, when I shared this on my socials, I had 10 women that you would never ever expect to have worked that line of work come in and say, thank you for having this conversation. I was scared to share this with my partner. Now I'm going to have this conversation with him. Or, I was ashamed of it, and now I understand other people did it too. There's nothing wrong. And so what also happens is each person owns their story. They become the ripple effect.
Yes. Yes, I love that. I really love what you are saying. And I have also had like before, the fear of being out there and share my message. And when I started also owning up my truth, then it's starting to happen. And it is recently that I understand that I have to be everywhere with my message, everywhere. This because when you are just in one group and telling your story, then it is some other person that think, oh, why isn't she talking everywhere about it? Why is she holding back? What is it in this story that she doesn't want to tell us? And my story is that I have a sexual trauma that happens in young age, and that has affected me. It affected me a lot with the sexuality and everything. And when I started to learn more about the subject, when I started to learn more about what was happening to me and understand why I had pain in my back and in my hips and in my shoulders, and also because I was like, my body was in a trauma response. And when I started to understand that, then I thought, oh, this is my message. This is why I'm going to tell people to learn to have more pleasure in life, and to really embrace the life that you have. So when I started to own it, then I understand that this is my message and my work in this world. So thank you for showing me also to be like a mirror to the things that when you own to your message, then people are not bullying you anymore, because you are in alignment with who you are.
And thank you for being brave enough and to have the conversations that so many are afraid to have, because there are a lot of survivors out there that don't have a voice, and in you owning your voice gives them permission to own their voice too.
Yeah. So that's why, and when you told your story, I got goosebumps. When you told me that thank you, then I got goosebumps. So it was a reflection that this is the right thing to share. So thank you.
So welcome.
Do you have any spiritual practice that you do in a regular basis, that you do every day?
Well, I'm going to be such a cliche here, but meditation. I really believe in meditation and transcendental meditation. And what I mean by that is I set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes and I just say the words internally, thank you, over and over again. Even on the days I don't want to do it, even when I hear my children screaming around me and there's chaos, it doesn't matter where it is, I'm doing this. And what I've come to learn is that there is no bad meditation, because you've sat there and held the space. And then what happens as a result of that meditation, you have space in your life for every thought, because what happens is a thought will come up, and this used to be me, and a thought would come up and there was no gap between the thought, and I would run around with the thought, and my
Yes.
brain would be wired. I'm grateful that you're saying this, to be so negative. It would see the negative and everything. It would be judgmental. And the reason why my brain was so judgmental, like you, Pam had sexual abuse when I was younger, physically abusive household. And so hypervigilance happened as a result of it. Watching everyone. Who can I trust? Can I actually relax my central nervous system? Can I actually calm down? And that hypervigilance was happening all the time. And my thinking was always analyzing, are they safe? Or it would judge them. And then it would tend to see the negative in them, so that I would have the barriers around my heart to be safe, so I can't be hurt again. And then what meditation has done is it's created a gap between those thoughts. And what happens now is, well, I don't actually get those thoughts anyway, but I'm going to give you something else that's helped that. But I get a gap between the thoughts. So even if I feel like, oh, my kids piss me off right now. Yeah, like they'll do it, and I can, but I get to choose whether I act on that anger. Whereas 5 years ago, I would just go with the anger and then feel bad afterwards. Why did I react in such a way? Because most of the time, I realized as a mother, I was reacting the same way my mother reacted. And it was printed in me. And what meditation has done is created that gap.
Yes.
So that I can change everything and make a choice. I don't have to run with the hard wiring that's in me. And it's like, and what happens with your brain is that you've got neural pathways. And what will happen on that one neural pathway, like if you look at your index finger right now and it's strong, and the same thought, like, I'm not good enough, would run down that over and over again, making it solid. Then your brain does is wraps myelin sheath around that, making it a solid thought. Now there's something called neural growth factor that wraps around that neural pathway. Now, and it's limited, it is limited. Now, that's not a bad thing. I don't want anyone to think, oh no, it's limited. I used to think, oh no, there's not enough. But the beautiful thing is the brain can't create more, so it takes it off old thought patterns. And so thought pattern that I used to have is I'm not good enough, is no longer there because of meditation. It's taken away the neural growth factor of that old one, and it's created I'm good enough. And how have I created that? It's more like a mind tip, mind hack, but it's also something that connects with my soul. Is I have, well, two things. I have something called self-concept. So self-concept is basically you, because we are the universe inverse. The universe is inside us. Everyone, you're just an avatar in my movie, and I'm an avatar in your movie, and our souls come together to learn something. And when I learned that, I was like, whoa, the entire universe is in us. So everything is a reflection of what's going on in me. And self-concept means you're basically creating out to the world what you're choosing to create. And so what I started doing with self-concept is I am statements. I started making, because you might think I'm quite confident right now. I wasn't. I never articulated the way that I do today. But I created this by I am statements, because the most powerful words for your brain are I am. Because after I am, your brain, your identity, your thoughts become who you are, it becomes your behaviors. And so I started looking at my I am statements, started this I am statements of like, I actually say, like, I'm a manifesting queen. And everywhere I go, people ask me, Amberlee, how do you create this? And like in some of these things, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm Wonder Woman, I can do anything. And I say these statements every morning with motivational music as I'm out walking. I say it out loud. People think well, no, this is the truth. When I first started it, I saw people looking at me as if I was crazy. And then I started going inside and realizing they only think I'm crazy because I think they think I'm crazy.
Yes.
And so I started stop giving a care about what other people thought about me. Nobody notices me anymore. Like I danced, like when we were traveling around, you probably saw this on my stories.
Yes.
I was sitting in the middle of Caravan Park's toilets and nobody would say anything to me. They'd come out of the toilet and they'd look at me and then they'd just turn around and go because I cared about what they thought. So there was nothing there. So it comes back to my internal world. So I decided to make this rock solid belief. I am, and I'd say these different things. Like I'd say, like, I'm an incredible speaker. I'm an incredible storyteller. Every time I talk, people stop and listen. And what's happened? And I started writing these things like, what is it in my online business? Everybody comes to me and say, oh, like what if it's like one of them, and how can I get it right? When somebody asks how to make money online, they say, go to Amberlee Jay. Now, you can't make this up. Someone turned up into my inbox on a Saturday night at 10 p.m. said, Amberlee, I want to learn how to make money online. And my sister told me you're the person to come to. I wasn't friends with her because I started creating my own reality because everything is a result of me. So that's the I am. The meditation, and the one that I want to give is like magical script. And when I learned about magical script, it changed my world. And to give context of this, my first birth with my son was not what I envisioned it to be. And I recreated my birth because what happened, I'd been taught about how babies were born, how I was born. I recreated it. So with my second birth, with my daughter, one, I thought how important it is I'm birthing a daughter into the world. I want her to understand that birth can be easy and effortless. I started educating myself on how can I create the birth that I wanted. And one of the things I was told is magical scripts that you could basically, this is what, not basically, you write out your perfect birth and it will happen. Now, my birth of my daughter happened exactly how I wrote it, except for the time of day and the date she was born, because she chose.
Wow.
And so, for example, we watch in movies and the movies say that your water is meant to break. Wrong. Your water is not meant to break. It's the last thing
Mm.
that's meant to happen in a birth. And if it happens first up, they put antibiotics in you, which is something you don't want because the child needs antibiotics as they're going through the process.
Mm.
So I wrote out like how I would wipe myself and I'd see my mucus plug. I'd have throbbing in my womb. I wrote, and that's exactly how it happened. I woke up with throbbing in my womb. My mucus plug showed up. And I said, my water didn't break until the last minute. My husband had to tear the water sac open because it was strong. And then when I was so excited before I was birthing my daughter, and I shared with my midwives because I decided to have it home. Another thing, the doctors told me you can't. Due to your first birth,
Mm.
it's impossible to have your baby at home. That's what they told me. And I was like, whatever. And one of my midwives, I told them that I was going to birth my daughter, and my daughter was going to take her first breath on my husband's chest. And the
Mm.
midwife said to me, look, Amberlee, I don't want to rain on your parade. She thought I was crazy. She said that the umbilical cords are never that long. Now,
Mm.
this is I've never done before. I fired her on the spot. And I said, you don't get to tell me how I birthed my daughter. This is going to happen. Now, when my daughter came out, the two midwives were in such shock. They had never seen an umbilical cord as long as the one with my daughter in their 40 years of nursing
Wow.
experience. I got bliss bumps all over my body as I shared this. My daughter took her first breath on my husband's chest because I wrote it in a magical script and I created it that way. And so
Wow.
why I share this today is I create a magical script. And it's so funny, Heidi, because what it says on my magical script is people reach out to me and want to be on podcasts. Beautifully. I only wrote it in my script 2 weeks ago. What happened? We reconnected here. Bang. Another opportunity to do this. I script out everything in a present tense as if it's already done. And there is so much magic in my world. Money, like $20,000 months happening. I do high ticket affiliate marketing. So my team are on fire because I've scripted all this into my reality. Like everything is you inside. And so the spiritual practices I would give is like the I am statements. Create a magical script of your life. It could be just how you want your relationship to change, relationship with yourself. You can write a magical script about the relationship with yourself if that's what you're choosing to create. Is it around money? And meditation, self-concept, they're my 3 non-negotiables, and I do them every day, and I say them. I do my self-concept and my magical script out loud, and I say it with passion and I say it with conviction, and I have motivational music there because what we know about sounds is the ability of sounds have an emotional response. And the reason why we want to light up the emotional center of your brain, because once we connect it with an emotion, we see it as already done.
Mm.
And that's all that you're doing is if your brain already sees it as done, there's no limitations there anymore. If it's done, it's like, oh, I'm looking for the next thing, and it finds the solution for you on how to create it.
Yeah, that is amazing. And when you are talking about it, I'm doing this. I'm doing the same, but I have like a 5-step process that I do. One, like processing if it's something in the day that is or that you think about that has been bad in your life, then I write that down. And then I write down a positive thing that has happened in my life or this day or that day. And then I'm writing my future, what is going to happen in the future. And then I let my soul speak through me. And I get the message from the soul. And then the last thing I do before I go to bed is that I write 10 things that I'm thankful for. And that has been so transformational. It happens so much magic when you do that. And then when you see it back, then you say, oh, now I am there. um,
I I so agree. And I so agree about gratitude. And that's something that I always bookend my day with is gratitude. I always go through my day and look before I go to sleep. I have a rock. It's actually from a book called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. It's a 28-day
yes.
practice and it's phenomenal. And I have this rock, I put it in my hand, and at the end of the day, I go through my day and see what is my best things. And it's so interesting because my ego tells me throughout the day that the things that I'm going to get more enjoyment from are the things that get me towards my goal, like all the things that are strategy. But when I go at the end of the day, my favorite parts of my day are when I'm playing with my kids and when I'm in joy, when I'm in love, I'm in gratitude, I'm in bliss. And it's really, and why I like doing that exercise is one, you have gratitude for it. And the other is that you actually start seeing what really matters because there is nothing worse than being at the end of your life at your on the rocking chair having your regrets. And most people's regrets are that they wish they'd spent time with their loved ones. They wish that
Yes.
they'd loved them and they wish that they'd spent those time with their loved ones. There's a song by Cat Stevens, um, what my husband listens to it all the time. It's about a man that he says to his son, like, and when he gets older, he'll spend time with his son. And then what happens is he gets older, he's available to spend time with his son, but his son has duplicated what dad's done. And now he's working all the time saying, I'm too busy, dad, I can't be with you. And life is about living now. All we have
Mm,
is now.
mm,
There's reason why we have regrets is that we don't give ourselves permission in that moment to follow our heart, to follow our bliss.
yes, that's so true. And 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 we are, many times we think that we have to do what the other person says that we are going to do. Like, if you are in a job and that you know that if you are like a 9 to 5, like, yes, job, and then you know that you have like a sole purpose that you're going to be a entrepreneur and build your own business, and but you are not going to do that because you are thinking that you have to have food on the to everybody, and then you stay in that job that you hate. And there's so many people that do that. And when I started to do my business in the beginning, it was like, you can't live on that salary, you can't do this, and what are you thinking about what are you going to how are you going to survive? But when I started to understand that this is my life, this is my purpose, then the the noises from other people, it disappeared, and they
You make
started to and they started to understand that I was doing a job.
and you got me so excited because you made me realize, it made me think of a book by Ken Honda. It's called Happy Money. And what he talks about is a Japanese man that became so curious about why people were wealthy and other people didn't. And the reason why he became curious about money is because when he was younger, his dad was a bookman that lended out money. And there was a man that came to him asking the father, can you lend me this money? I need like a substantial amount of money. And his dad didn't give it to the man. And what happened is the next day, this Japanese man and his family had been killed by the Japanese mafia
Mm,
because he needed the money to pay off a debt that he had for them. And he, instead of, like, he remembered his dad was ashamed for the rest of his life about how this consequence happened. And the son became curious, like, these events happen in life. It's what I find really interesting is a quote that I'm thinking of right now, that there's some things that happen in people's lives that they either make a man or it kills a man. And this
yeah.
made the man curious about money. And what he came to discover, because he learned with like Japanese businessmen and just following people with their journey of money, is that what would happen with people if they're dissatisfied with a job that they love, what would do is most of the time they would spend their money on toys that they didn't need, or coffees. They'd buy themselves coffees and bribe themselves to go to work to a job that they didn't love. So they were never ever getting ahead financially, because what they were doing was bribing themselves to go to work each day. But then when those people went off and pursued what their soul was calling them forward, they actually creating more money than they had before, and they weren't spending money on bribing themselves to go do something they didn't love. They didn't need to do it. They were able to save money. And so it was like about like you will never ever spend recklessly when you do what you love day in and day out. Whereas working a job that we don't love, and if and the listeners are listening to this, have a reflection. Are you bribing yourself to go to work each day? You're actually better off finding a job where you have more pleasure in and you're getting a lot less money, because you're actually spending that money on things that you don't need.
Yes, that's so true. And the more that you are doing the things that is your sole purpose, then you see that you have everything. You don't need anything. And that you can also see that, okay, now I want to create this. Now I want to create now I'm going to create a vacation, a holiday for my daughter. So I'm manifesting it. And what is happening is like, then you create it. Then you put the energy to that, and you know that it's going to happen. Like, because you have put the energy to the things. If you put the energy on the things that you don't want, then instead of getting energy and pleasure in your life, then you are like dying inside more and more and more, and get sick, and all your energy system is like shutting down all the chakras. Boom.
And you're so wise. And in saying that, like something that I learned that would change people's world is vibe boosters. And what I the reason why people see me dancing in my stories all the time is because that elevates my vibration and allows me to. And so my invitation to people, when you're in a high vibration and like coming into, even when you're from gratitude, you can't think the negative, all you see the positive. But it's very hard sometimes when things aren't, your mind has gone into that, how can you say, it's like the snowball you were talking about. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, there's such things like vibe boosters. So my reflection would ask everyone who's listening, what makes you feel good? For me, it feels good to dance. It feels good to have a conversation. And I mean, not a conversation with somebody that's going to whinge and complain, because that brings me down. But I like having conversations with high vibrational people, people that inspire me, not people that are, and people that are living the life that I'm choosing to live. Another thing is like getting out in nature is something that lifts my vibration. It feels good. Playing with my kids, sitting down and having, which is funny, I would never thought I would say this, but sitting down and having a cacao, smelling the cacao, being mindful and present with it. And the reason why I'm talking about vibration boosters is because what will happen is you're lifting your vibration, those thoughts will go away, and coming back to that morning routine, our brain is hardwired to go to the negative. That's our survival. Whereas if you're doing your own morning routine and every 2 to 3 hours you're doing a vibe booster that elevates your thinking and how you feel good, you're going to keep that momentum of your morning routine feeling good. And then you're going to notice less of those negative thoughts that are spiraling through there, and creating, like you're talking about, that reality that you're choosing to create. You create it by thinking it. And the only way you can create it is if you know in your heart that you're capable of creating it. And the vibe booster allows you to come back to your soul, and your soul is whispering, yes, you can do this. You are capable of doing this.
Yes, and that's so true. And the more you, like you were talking about, that you were doing the meditation also, and all about the gap, because when we get the gap and do the meditation, then we start to see that, oh, am I going to the negative or I'm going to the positive? And when we go to the more positive side, then we can start to get more like creative thoughts into our brain. Like, wow, I want to buy a house, like you have done, and you how can I say I should say that happy home, or that I'm so glad that you have bought a house now.
It's interesting you talk about that, because when my brain was going about environment, like your environment is so valuable to you and how you think. And when I was in this, like I am in the Caravan, this is my office. And so what we have now is 6 acres of land here in Australia, and you can see kangaroos
Wow.
every morning. I get to see kangaroos. Like my husband went for a run today. The kangaroos are alongside him. And we've got so much space and spaciousness. And what would happen is when we were in the Caravan, because we're in each other's energy, but because the space is so limited, the environment wasn't working for us. And so what we found for ourselves is we had to get out of the Caravan to allow ourselves to feel good. And
Yeah.
where you're coming from, we are completely different people because we're back in a house with room. And where I'm coming from, this is environment. It's really important for you to reflect upon environment. What environment am I in right now? And the other is like one of the best tips I can give anyone that's just coming over a breakup is move out of the
Yeah.
house, completely different town, because if you're in the same house, the memories are there. You get to see it. Whereas if you're in a completely different environment, there's no attachment. If you're not feeling good in your thoughts and your body, get out of that environment, find somewhere else, go to somewhere else, so that your brain is seeing something else and it will switch to something entirely. Because what we're wanting to do is get your brain, because your brain thinks it rules, but it's actually your heart, because your soul, your spirit lives in your heart. And we've got to bring you back in this. And if we can teach you as many hacks as you can to come back to this, your success lies here. The ability to manifest, like, and you know this yourself, the holiday that you're choosing to create and manifest that's coming into your world comes from you leaning into trusting your heart and your intuition.
Yes, and it's interesting that you are saying that the thing about the environment and the energy, and also that every uh, every town, every country, every uh, all the globe has a different kind of energy. And that is really interesting, because when I got through my divorce, I moved to Finland from Norway. So I started the whole process again, and when I understand that, oh, I have moved here, then I had to start to work with all the chakras again, because I had to find the grounding. I had to find like how to be in this energy, because it's a different kind of energy.
Yes. And we found that from each caravan park we would go to. And what happened is we moved just after the insanity. That's all I can say is that 2 years of insanity. And that I was in the most lockdown city in the world. Mel, it was extreme. And why I share that is because the people were deflated. And then we would go to a different town, and it was interesting. And as we traveled up Australia, because Victoria is quite cold, so therefore the restrictions were there, because a lot of people were getting colds and they were getting, I call it the spicy sea, like they were more susceptible to it. But as we went up to the top of Australia, which is tropical, it's the Gold Coast, it's the Great Barrier Reef, where it's sun 24 hours a day, they weren't affected. And so the energy of people was so different than the people that had been locked down for
Mm.
2 years. And that's what from, like, environment, and also the people. Who are you spending your time with? Because like you said, I have to do that internal different work. It's a different type of people that I'm here. And it's not even just the person that's presenting itself. It's like what ancestral lines is leading into that person, and what's happened in those countries, and has that person gone in and done the internal work and choosing to heal themselves. Because there are people out there that are like you and I, and the people that are listening here, that they're conscious of who I am is who my children become tomorrow, and my grandchildren, and that I have to heal the generational lines before me. But some people unaware of that, or they just don't want that responsibility. Because
Mm.
no, it wasn't easy for you to move from one country to another. It's not easy for you to do the internal work. It's actually easier to turn on Netflix every night, eat the things, or, drink the alcohol, eat the food, smoke the smoke. So whatever it is that I can turn my blind eye and I don't have
Mm.
to things, or I can be the person that goes within and become, once again, talking about that, the ripple effect that changes the ancestral lines. And what we do is we heal the generations, 7 generations before us and 7 generations that follow. And what I've seen as a result of the work I've done on myself is that the relationships have changed between myself and my parents. My parents talk to themselves, to each other, for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
20 years. And I know it's because of the internal work that I'm choosing to do that shifted things within them.
That is amazing. That is, it's so inspiring. And because when we understand we have that we are the change, like we have to change, we have to transform, we have to go within and to get to know all the energies that lives there. And then we can start to create another reality and another life. Because when we start with us, then it's people that is going to see what happened to you, and then they get curious about it, and then their people are, what is happening to you, and then they get, and so then it started to be the ripple effect that you are talking about. Amberlee, can you tell me about the 5 uh, life lessons that you have learned in your life?
Wow. Wow, that's a deep question. And thank you for asking it. I feel like the cave that you're scared to enter is the one that you must enter. I was terrified to have children, and they've given me my greatest joy.
Mm.
Another example is what I do today, affiliate marketing. Oh, I judged it. Oh, I didn't even want to know about it. I didn't even know I was in it. I had such judgment, and I've become the woman that I always wanted to be. And it gave me the path I always wanted to. I had a vision of my life, and it was like an apple tree, and the apples were so high I couldn't grab them. And it allowed
Mm.
me to on to create a stepping stone to create my vision. And I was terrified to do that. So you must enter the cave that you're terrified to enter. To all my beautiful women, when you find the right man, lay down your sword. It's his job, it's his duty, it's his responsibility to
Yes.
look after you and protect you. And the more and that you lay down that sword, you come back to your feminine essence, because you're not here to fight, you're not here to slay the dragons. And so, it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. The next one would be follow your knowing.
Mm.
When I was choosing to birth my daughter, I remember the doctors told me it was impossible. Even my midwives I found that said I could, but there was so many people in my world that said that I couldn't do it. And my soul told me I could. And because I chose to birth my baby naturally at home, I unleashed a level, how can I put it into words? When I was birthing my daughter, I didn't want to surrender. Birthing, when you've got to surrender and trust your body when you're birthing your
Mm.
child. And I had never surrendered to this. And that's the reason why there was complications with my son. And I had a vision of my daughter come to me, and she said, Mum, say this after me. I'm strong. I'm
Mm.
powerful. I'm Wonder Woman. I can do anything. And she was in my hand. She was a baby, and I was holding her just like after I birthed
Mm.
her. and I surrendered, and within a minute, my baby girl was born.
Mm.
Next thing would be, I think this is number 4, surrender and trust. The universe is always looking after you. This home that we live in right now, for 6 months, we were applying for homes, trying to get homes. And to be truthful, I was desperate for a home, and they were all in built up areas where my neighbors would be in my pocket. There wasn't any room, and it wasn't my dream home. And then I did a meditation, and my son said, "Mom, let's move to Eden." And I went and looked on the internet. I found the perfect house. What happened is everything perfectly fell into place. There was no
Mm.
complication. It was so easy and so effortless, and I would have never been happy. So surrender and trust that the universe has got your back, and enjoy the journey. We're all so rushing to get to the goal. We're
Mm.
like, oh, I'm going to be a better person because I've got the goal. But actually, it's not the goal, it's the person you become along the journey. Enjoy that. That's why you chose the goal. You could hold the trophy at the end, but you actually chose it to evolve and transform and transcend into the truest version of you.
Mm. It's so powerful, and it's so important lessons to have learned, and that we can use in life, because I like especially that surrender, to get more in peace with yourself. And like you said also in the beginning, that we are the feminine energy, and that we are here to let go and just get let the other people give, and you can receive. And when we are trusting the universe, then we receive is what is meant for us. So thank you, thank you for this. And where can people find you? And
I am on social media, of course. Mind you, before I started doing what I did, I didn't even want to be on social media. I had like 400 friends. So you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram, and it's just my name at Amberlee J, which is spelled AMBERLEEJAAAY. And I would absolutely love that, even if it's through Instagram or Facebook, please don't hesitate to reach out and say hello. I love it when people jump into my inbox.
oh, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you wanted to be interviewed by me. And like I told you before we started the interview, that I have followed you on your journey this year, and it has been so amazing to see all the places and all your amazing dances and all your wisdom, and so I'm so thankful that you wanted to come here and talk, and it has been so amazing to have you here. Do you have something that you haven't said that you want to say to the listeners?
Yeah. To love with all your heart. And I'm probably going to cry because I still have got to a point, because of the hurt and heartache that happened to me as a child. My heart was so closed off. And what we really are here, our souls chose us to come into this world to love, to feel,
Yes.
even if there's the possibility of being rejected and not seen, because it's better to love than not to love at all. And if I was going to leave it on this, is that to tell your loved ones that you love them, to show that love and allow them to feel that love. Because unfortunately, I spent the last months of my mother-in-law's life with her. She had pancreatic cancer. And
Oh.
her biggest regret was she was Maltese and she immigrated to Australia when she was 18. And she said that they caught the ferry from Goza to Malta, and her mum took her and her brother there, and that they stayed the night over a hotel. And she remember she heard the door slam early in the morning, and that
Mm.
she opened up the door and saw her mum walking up the street with a suitcase. And her greatest regret was that she didn't run and
Mm.
tell how much she loved
Mm.
her. And I'm really emotional about that. And that's what we're here. Your love will open other people's hearts and it'll allow other people, your heart to be open. And it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Thank you for sharing it. Thank you so much for coming to this show and podcast today. And it has been so wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.